All right, everybody, welcome back. We have another fun episode here. We've got Albert Tong. He is Director of Creative Video at Maryland Football, so right down the street here. We're really pumped about this. This is another different angle we've got. So, Albert, welcome to our podcast lair.
Thanks
I'm
for
pumped to
having
have
me.
you. As I said before we got started, the only note I had about you was like from your boss, Mike. He was like, talk to Albert. He's cool. I was like, okay, that's good enough for me. I've enjoyed
We'll have to try prove him right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, as we like to start this off, positive mischief, we're going to have some fun talking creativity, but to get a little bit of a baseline that I like, what would you and how would you describe your job to like a 7, 8, 9-year-old? That's my favorite one.
I've listened to some of your previous episodes. You said 6-year-old. Now I have to reframe it all.
6. Well, pick a 6 is fine then.
As a kid.
Yeah.
I would say that I make videos that tell stories about all sorts of people. And at their very least, they should make you feel something. And at their very best, they should make you understand something.
Okay. That sounds cool. Does it matter to you that you do that right now for sports? Or is it sort of like that's an overall theme that is true for everything?
I think that, of course, I'll do some freelance stuff with, the Yahoos and Googles of the world, and those are just ads. But, I think right now, just as a theme across all the work that I like to do, it is, story driven, and as it all should be. And I think that story is a word that got hot and thrown around on everything that is art now.
Disruptors
We're all
and
storytellers,
stories.
and that sort of thing. But I think that every avenue of filmmaking has story in it. And so when you talk about, like, I'm doing sports right now, college sports, a lot of my friends would be like, oh, that's an interesting place for Albert to end up. But there's stories everywhere, and the building is just full of them. And so when you're in it, it really then becomes, do you have access to them? And the access, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but it's trust. Like, once you have some trust, then you really have place to run. And that's kind of a weird space right now with college sports, because a lot of people are like, oh, let's just freelance this thing and they'll come and make a piece about this. And then, Big Ten Network or NBC will come and do a little spotlight on this player. But if you're in the building with them and you're with them at the 6 a.m. lifts and you're with them at the dinners and the bus rides, you get a level of like, hey, like, I'm not just here because I'm flying in for a week to try and make a story on you. Like, I want to see all the facets and talk to you a little bit longer. So
you're learning who they are, why they are. You're getting a more real look at who those people are, the players, the coaches, which is really interesting in now today's college sports landscape is a really interesting place to be because they're moving around so much too. So your access is more important now than ever because of that small window. Like, you're actually there on a more real basis. So you said something earlier about that's interesting for where Albert is. Your friends would say, why is that?
Because I was at the Smithsonian for about 9 years before I came to Maryland. And before that, I was doing a lot of freelance film stuff, indie doc stuff. And I would say that the moving from the folk life aspect of working with the Smithsonian and doing these very, I guess, international world culture documentary style things to then going into college sports and specifically football, which I start all my interviews with the players with a little bit like, hey, so talk to me like I don't know anything about it, because I kind of really don't.
Football is king in college sports and in pro sports, really, too. So, you went from, arguably you went from one of the more premier museum cultures in the world to now, like, the premier, like, sport in college sports. So.
Yeah. What I'll say is that my time in the Smithsonian, and particularly under my boss, Charlie Weber, like, he was like a mentor, father figure to me for, like, that whole time. And he really awoke something in me that was just, like, a true, like, pure curiosity. Like, when this guy interviews people, I'm telling you, he'll just get them to open up about these things that you were like, how did you do that? And he'll sometimes just ask questions that you're like, oh my God, that's so stupid, Charlie, don't ask that. And then it would go so well, and the answer that he gets from it is just amazing. And I think he just made me realize, like, you gotta be wide-eyed in like a lot of what you do. And like, so if it's college football, if you're wide-eyed and you are just like so there for everything has a culture, right? You're there to find the folk life, the folklore behind what is this program, who is this coach, who are these players. You're gonna find almost anything you want.
What's one of the cooler things that you found unknowingly, unexpectedly?
I can't go too deep into this, but our coach, he's got a really incredible history, family history, and his personal story. And I just think that there's like so much to go with it. I mean, I sent him a text like maybe a month ago now that was just like, one of these days I won't be here anymore, but like as long as you're here and there's your story to tell and the story these players tell, like I want to be around. And yeah, it wasn't a threat or anything like that. It was more of just like an affirmation.
See, the camera's a little bit different. It fell down. We fixed it. No big deal. So you were talking about the coach and his story and just wanting to be there throughout as part of that.
And I can go into it a little bit just so it's not just no context. But
well, look, some of that is personal and it's private, and I totally afford that. Does that mean we're going to see a cool doc coming out, a mini doc, a little story about him at some point? That's not
I would
NBC
say
driven,
that
but
perhaps things are leading, like eventually down the road. I don't want to speak for him too much, but I think that when there is something made on his life, a lot of the footage that we've captured over the past 3 years will be really important in it. It's just being able to capture the moments in between, like the little like breath he takes in prayer before he gives the speech to the team, those little moments, and just figuring out sort of through other people how much he's meant to this area and the DMV, and born and raised in Southeast DC, and came back to coach the school that he was in the parking lot selling tickets as a kid, scalping tickets.
Yeah.
And now he's the head coach.
That's really cool.
He's got a very, very interesting story, and I think the more that people get to know him, like you realize that like he's funny, and there's all this like other stuff outside of football that's very meaningful, and so that's
No, I love that, and I think that speaks to your curiosity to that. Also, just speaks to the fact that people have stories that you never know about, and if you're not willing to get a little dirty with them, you'll never know about that. You'll never get that, and I think there's something about authenticity, there's something about vulnerability and honesty that, like you said, awakens in who you're talking to. Whether you're just having a beer, whether we're having a sit down, whether it's something formal or kind of informal. I mean, we should have beers here. I don't like this kind of like formality thing to it, but like something very chill and relaxed, I think, is important for how you get people to feel comfortable. Because look, when there's lights on, and it just becomes more difficult. You freeze up, and I think that's a really interesting skill to learn, to just be able to let somebody feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think interviewing is an art form, and like I didn't think that way until I met Charlie at the Smithsonian. I mean, he would interview people for 90 minutes, 2 hours. I would be there sitting, like I'd be stunned at how long this person was sitting in the chair with us.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd need to change the battery. Now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I totally underestimated that, and I totally underestimated the memory. My first time filming an interview for Charlie, it was 2014. It was on the National Mall. It's July. It's hot and humid. This is my first day as an intern. I showed up into the office, and he says, "Are you here to save our ship?" I had no clue what he meant by that. He then throws me right to editing. I edit this quick, like 90-second stinger video for them, a promo. And he's like, "Oh, you're done with that? Great, let's go out." And I'm like, okay. So we take out this FS-100 onto the National Mall, and we find one of the workers that's helping to build this giant bamboo wall right in the middle of National Mall. It's for the Folklife Festival. And he's like, "Let's talk to this worker." And so I'm there, and I just like holding the camera like this, And he just starts going. I'm like, okay, 5 minutes goes by, sweat starts to kind of come down, 10, 15, 20. I'm like, oh my God, like now everything's drenched. And I'm like starting to shake, and I'm like, this is not going to work. I'm finding a new position. He goes for 45 minutes under the heat of the sun. And I'm just in there like, who is this guy?
He didn't bat an eye.
Who is this guy? Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you had probably a lot of content then.
Yeah. That festival, I'm telling you, the content that comes out of that is amazing.
I'm sure.
There's not enough editors to work on it.
That's a shame, too. That's a real shame. And I think those are opportunities lost to tell really cool stories. I wonder about that at the same time, though, and this will be an interesting thing for you to sort of unpack, is do we have too much content? Can we ever have too much content? Are we inundating people with it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, everything's so saturated, and in our world especially, like I'll just speak to college athletics, the amount of things being made and pumped out every single day is unreal. And I don't know if I mean that as a compliment. Like, it's just, there's so much stuff that you could never really siphon through it all. But it does also make it more valuable when you do get to break through the monotony of everything, and everything's hype, and everything's got energy, and everything is zip, zip, zap, and this editor learned that, and now Blender's here, and 40's here, and everyone's doing really cool stuff. But I think there's a lot of bouncing around of people sort of just like, copying each other, which is not a bad thing. Imitation's
of flattery. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very interesting world inside college athletics where there's just all these things swirling around, and eventually someone will break the mold, and then everyone will want to do that, and then someone else breaks the mold, and everyone wants to do that.
Well, and there's so many places to put stuff now. It's social here, it's YouTube here, it's TikTok there. I mean, it's NBC wants that. Everything. There's so many places to put stuff that they're starving to keep people engaged, which I don't think is a good thing. But we all have access to things so much now that we'll just scroll by and be like, oh yeah, saw that. Oh, Maryland football hasn't put anything out in 2 days. Okay, on to the next thing. And in a way, it's this double-edged sword of like, you want to keep them engaged, but then you're just making stuff.
Yeah. I think that there's, the side of it where you're feeding the algorithm. Like that's what, a lot of people call it. It's just you got to feed the algorithm to stay relevant, to stay at the top of the line. Or you could try to put the time into making something actually like really stand out. And then the algorithm latches onto it itself. Both schools have reason to exist. And obviously when you're making stuff that you're trying to promote a brand and promote a program, sell tickets, you need to pump out content. Like you need that. But, I think that we've proven a few times with Maryland football, the work that we've done here is that if you make an outstanding piece of content, it can break through and do things that you weren't expecting. And the algorithm, like YouTube, latches onto it and it's like, hey, this thing seems to be getting more views than your recent stuff. We're going to expose it to people that are interested in Texas Tech, and we're going to expose this to people that are interested in Oregon and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, like, you've got videos that are doing numbers way outside of your pool of people that usually watch.
So what, I'll come back to that one. I just had another thought that came up. What's your total run time, like best sweet spot? Because go ahead.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
So, and it's something that me and my assistant director Noah are like discovering, is that YouTube likes longer videos. Right. And it rewards you in a way. So I would say that honestly, a sweet spot right now is maybe anywhere above 20 minutes. Because then you get latched into this category YouTube where they're like, hey, people watching longer videos on YouTube, here's another long video. Because they are like, yeah, there's a weird one. With this Maryland football in season episode we had, it was 28 minutes or something. We looked at the stats of like where people are finding this video, and one of them was coming from like an hour-long crime documentary, but And not one of them, I mean, like many of them were coming from this
Wow.
hour-long crime documentary. And then we looked it up, and then there's this other hour-long cop show that was just, and so it just seemed that YouTube was like, hey, people that watch here long, here's another thing that might keep you here for a long time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which that just is a slap in the face to what we're seeing on the socials of the Instagrams and the Facebooks of the shorts, and like just quickly. That's a different form of keeping you engaged and sucked in I think, a more mindless way. It's interesting because they're finding research that sitting down to watch a long form thing is actually better for you. You're engaged, you're part of the storytelling process, you're trying to figure things out, you want to see through the end of it, as opposed to just these like small like dopamine hits over and over and over again. So I think that's really cool that you're seeing that. I've also thought that too. And we sort of live in a world of like the 30-second promo, the 15-second promo, as well as some long form stuff that we've done. But this idea that, no one will watch anything over 8 minutes long is hogwash. I mean, you go find a bunch of 8-minute videos and you'll see hundreds of thousands of views on that. Like, we'll see, there's proof right there that that's not true. It's about what you create.
Yeah. It's having a story to hold them there. And I know we're back to the story word. But like, I think that, something that I'm trying to get better at as just a filmmaker is like, where do I include conflict? Like, when do I give it to you? And, all the story structures in the world are like, right away. Sometimes people need to be almost like brought into it. Yeah. Like it's needs to be settled into it. And so like short form content that's from, like you said, 8 minutes to, whatever I said, 28 minutes. It's a unregulated, there's no structure to that type of length, because when you have a 90-minute runtime for a movie, this is the pacing you go. When you have a Netflix show, Last Chance you've got 45 to an hour-long episodes. Hard Knocks, you've got the formula, and you can stick to it. But when you've got, I don't know, Albert, just make it, an episode, episode. Make it work. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that this one naturally fills into 15, 11 seconds. Yeah. And then, but your story structure is so different than the one that we just made that was 12 minutes, because you have a whole nother 3 minutes. So it's always like a challenge, and it's always kind of cool to see, like, where do I need to put a little bit more conflict, and where do I need to put a little bit more build and emotional hold to keep people going to that 15-minute mark.
Yeah. Mike, you're right. This is really interesting. Albert's cool. So in terms of creativity, because this is one of the things I like to talk about, is like, what is creative? How do we define creativity? And what does the process of being creative look like? So you've got these undefined restrictions. Mm-hmm. So when you're sitting down to plan something out, what is that process like?
I wish I'd brought my notebook, because, and my student interns and my assistant director will tell you that they're illegible.
Good for you.
You really couldn't understand it at all. But because sometimes I'll sit with them and I'll literally just be like, this is where it should be. And I'll just draw a circle, and then I'll just scribble in, like, just the beginnings of letters, because my brain's moving. Yeah. So I'm just scribbling the beginnings of letters. And then I'm like, and then arrow, you move to this scene. And that's where you can, settle in this personality trait. This scene speaks to this personality trait. Yeah. And I'm like drawing all over this thing. And then at the end of it, you've just got this page of like circles and boxes with scribbles on them. And they're like, can I, they ask me, can I keep this so they can reference it for editing? Yeah. And then literally they're like, I can't read this.
It's almost like they have to record it as it happens so they can have this reference to be able to put these dots together. Because, I mean, I get that. I mean, the number of times that we've had, calls and stuff where you're drawing on the screen, and you're like this, and now you're like, I should have really done a screen record of this, because now it doesn't make any sense. But that's awesome though.
And I guess another like functional note to anybody that like cares about how to actually try to do this stuff is like, I will source like, well, what do we have? And then I'll outline every single thing that I think could be a scene. Hey, we shot over at Arena Graphics, where they literally like carved the wood and printed on the opponents we're playing this year onto like giant wooden panels. That's got to go in somewhere. Hey, remember that time we recorded the marching band just practicing in their like huge empty space, and like it wasn't a game day, it was just them practicing? We should use that as a cold open somewhere. Like, you have to like slot all these little things that you keep in your pocket, because then you're like, yo, wait a second. Like, that metaphorically can speak to, this emptiness or, this progress and so forth.
How did you develop that? Just, there was this, and I asked that because there's tons of different types of ways that people go through, like to brainstorm this and try this and do this, and there's this conference and there's this speaker that says, I do it this way. And what was it for you? Just like a natural inclination towards that? Or did you like practice couple different things that you learned over time? I'm super emotionally guided with it. Like I just follow the trail of emotion. Like, how did that make me feel? And then, okay, well, maybe that's going to make me feel that same way. I'm going to put that over here. And then it's like, well, now I'm like, falling deeper in this thing, and that's where my interest goes. So I'm a very emotional editor. I will, people that have watched me edit say that sometimes my face will like twitch when I'm editing, and it's because like I'm like smiling or like I'm like starting to frown. And I think that that's where I follow, and it's not always the best. Like I would say that there are people that are way better storytellers that understand actually like from their shoot day, this is what we got, check. I kind of go on the shoot and then I feel all these things, and I think I'm like, well, it's just my job to try and make the audience feel the same things I felt. And hopefully I can do that. And like that's the language, like that's the articulation that took me years to develop. Like when I was at the Smithsonian, I just cared about filming beautiful shots. I thought that was the mecca of like, I'm so good at cinematography, I make beautiful shots. Now I'm like, I don't care if it's grainy, I don't care if it's a little out of focus, I don't care if the white balance off. Like that shot has the story in it. That shot has his expression in that moment that like you can't get anywhere else. And so I'd put that shot in over a beautiful standard shot any type because I'm following the emotion of it, and I just have to ride with that. Well, I think that's spot on. I mean, that's why people love movies like Jaws. That's why, because they are emotionally driven, there's power in that. And if you can get people to feel, then they'll go anywhere with you.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool about it. So it does come down to, how do I tell this story? And I love the idea that you said, like, essentially, if I'm going to feel this, other people maybe too will also feel it. And that's really powerful. If you're just trying to do something to like check some boxes or whatever, then you lose the human aspect of it.
Yeah.
And that's how you really connect with somebody else.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a shoot that we did for a draft party, and people go to the NFL. That's great. That's awesome. I didn't know what story we were going to get out of the night, but we get to this player's house, Ty Felton. And just so you know, I think there's 102 picks that are going to happen that night.
Yeah.
We're sitting there and we're like, all the intel, all the boards, the draft boards, all the stuff the agents are telling us. Okay, cool. So we know tonight's the night. That's why we sent cameras here.
Yeah.
That's why we are here to spend our evening with this family in this packed house. And we get there, and so, it's like pick 60. Okay, cool. We're all chilling. Let's go get a little dinner. 70, 80, 90. Oh, well, maybe it's not going to happen. It's 3 hours into the night, and the party's 100 people are there, 150, packed in this living room. And we're starting to sweat, and we're just like, oh, man, maybe it's, like, not going to happen tonight. And then he goes to his car just for a brief moment around, like, the 95th pick. And Noah, my sister editor, follows him. And I remember seeing that living room. I see someone go, hey, go get that kid. Go tell him not to film that. And Noah gets this amazing shot. It's just him getting in the car, and it's a static of the car in the driveway just running. He comes back in, sits down, and the 100 pick, 101, last pick of the night, his phone rings. And this is what happens before the NFL calls. They'll call the player and just, hey, like, we think we're going to pick you. Are you cool with that? And like, yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So the room starts to know, it starts to amp up, and then then that same person walks on the stage, comes on TV, announces the pick with the 102nd pick, Minnesota Vikings select Ty Felton. The room explodes. People are crying. It's so emotional. I'm like just mob trying to hold the camera and exist. And then I look at our static, and it's completely covered. Like no one can get it. So I'm now dual wielding, and I'm like got two cameras. I'm just like getting mobbed. And then that night ends, and I'm with our photographer, Mackenzie and Noah. And I tell them, like, do you guys feel that? Like, do you feel like the weight in these cameras right now, like these SD cards are gold. Like they are gold. If we got in a car accident,
right,
and I could not ingest this SD card to the server, it would be a crime.
Yeah.
It would be a crime.
Yeah.
And
we're
so,
saving this and you buy, sorry.
Yes.
You know?
And that long story is just because that's kind of what we were speaking to, is like the emotion of that moment was so massive that I was like, oh my God, I'm responsible for making people feel a remnant of this feeling. And so then we get it, and we drive back. It's 1 a.m. I remember it pouring rain too, 1 a.m. pouring rain, and I ingest that thing right when I get home. I do not let that thing sit on the SD card, and the next day we're just editing nonstop, because like I don't know, the closer you are to the moment, I feel like the more true you could be to it.
Yeah. I mean, listening to you, I got goosebumps. As we talked before, I'm an NFL fan, and so I've watched lots of drafts and those stories, and to be intimately involved with somebody like you are in that player. You're in the locker rooms, you're on the buses, you've watched this guy. To be in that moment where you actually don't know, and to be aware of it from this perspective of, this is a great human story. You know, and it's funny how it's resting on the edge of a knife. That pick 101 to 102, if it doesn't happen, your story is different.
We have nothing.
But it's a different story you're telling. It's a heartbreaking story. And it's one that maybe, like, he goes undrafted or whatever it is, like, there's a longer into it. But if he does get picked, that's a different story
Elation.
too. Yeah. You know, and so that's the being present and being aware. And I think that the prep that you're talking about doing as a creative process is really interesting to me, so that you're prepared for those types of things. So did you guys, how quickly before you got it out, or are you still working on it?
No, we got it out within like 5 days of that, I think.
Yeah. And
then, I don't know this account well, but ML Football seems to be a pretty big account on Twitter. They chopped out a scene of it, this exact scene that I just told you about, 160, 90, I guess the end sits in the car. They chopped that segment out and reposted it, and that got like 1 million views in like one day.
That's cool.
Sports Illustrated wrote an article about the video, and then I had like a Minnesota Viking beat reporter reach out and wanted to like know the story of that, and then they're like, wait a second, what's your story? And we talked a little bit too. But
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty neat. Man, so are there ever times when you have a plan and you have to pivot, or your entire like scribble just gets
all the time, every time?
What's that like for you?
I think that's just the world you exist in. Like, if you're trying to do anything that is live, anything that is like documentary and real, that you can't just like write a script and then try to film around it, like everything gets tossed out the window. I mean, last season, and I don't want to go too much into like the play of football, because that's actually like, I think if you can get away from football, it's good with stories here. But if you're talking about just the play of football, last year we start out this year 4-0 with all the momentum in the world.
I remember.
And we sell out the stadium for the first time in I think like 3 or 4 years. We sell out the stadium. It's this huge game, and we're up 21-0 on this Washington team or something like that. And then the tide just turns, and we lose by like 3 points in like the last minute of the game. And our team is a lot of freshmen that are like literally being thrown to the fire. Like, hey, we know you were in high school like literally 6 months ago, and you should have been at prom like 5 months ago, but you were here at spring camp instead.
Yeah.
We need you to play right now on the biggest stage. And then this next week, we spend the whole week ready for this amazing revamp story of like, we're going to come back against Nebraska and like show like, this is not the same old Maryland. Like, I tell you, this team is different. And like, I'm not just speaking propaganda, like I believe that.
Yeah.
And then we get in Nebraska, tie game, 1 minute to go, lose by 3 points. And we'd spent the whole week building the story, ready for the victory, ready to just blow the audience's mind with like this redemption story and how like it is time to believe, it is time to buy in, it is this new group that's going to take control of all of it. And then we go to UCLA the next week. 1 minute left to go. We lose by 3 points.
There's a theme.
And then it becomes, what is our story anymore?
Yeah.
What is our story anymore? And then that's when we released that 28 minute episode I told you, because it kept on coming back to me. And they're like, do we dump it all? Do we flush it all? Or do we actually try to let people see, like, hey, this is what we were going with? Because guess what? It's not propaganda. It was true. The team did believe, and then they lost. And then they believed again, and then they lost. And then they believed again, and they lost. And then so what do you talk about? I don't know. Maybe it's just the triumph of human spirit. Maybe it's just the ability to like keep on believing and know that, you know, this can come together. And like, once you realize that, like, wait a second, we're still telling a true story about the buy-in of these kids, then you still have a good story. And so that's what we ended up doing. We put out a episode that had never been done. It showed 3 losses in a row. Like, I don't know how you really make that into content. But we did it with that structure, and it really resonated. Like, I think that it showed people that, like, although we didn't win those past 3 games, the heart of the team is truly different. And that heart of the team is going to stick around and stay. And they said those words to me. Let's see if they still commit. Let's see if greener pastures come. This year, everyone stayed.
That's awesome.
So,
well, that does something too, I think, for your fan base, which is an interesting thing, because you have a built-in hardcore fan base. You know, every major college team does. To what degree?
Sure.
You know, it's different. We all know that, but you do. You've got the Scott Van Pelts of the world who are, you know, banging that drum for you guys all the time. And so, like, those things are real, and you have to, I don't say you have to give them something, but when you can give them something that is real and is honest and authentic, even if it is a losing effort, they're getting to see what's going on behind the curtain. And I think everybody loves that.
Yeah.
They love to see, like, oh yeah, these are my guys. You know, I can get behind them. I can support this. So you're not trying to attract new eyeballs. You know, you're not a product who, like, we want more people to buy Coke, so we're gonna come up with these, you know, fabricated stories of emotion, and Coke brings people together on Christmas time, blah blah blah. Like, no, you're like, you have a fan base there that's already hungry and starving and wants to be behind the curtain with you. Yeah. So how can you do that? It doesn't always mean winning. It means, like, that this is the agony of defeat, and how do we overcome that? And how can you come along? That's what it is. How can you come alongside of us? Yeah. You invite them into that process, which is really cool.
And the way you do that is that it's like, are you invested in the team winning? Sure. But can you be invested in who these kids are? That's the layer, that's the deep thing. It's like, can you make a piece that effectively conveys and helps someone understand who a kid is? If you can do that, I want to ride with you through the heartbreak, and I want to ride with you through the good times. You know, like, too many fans don't seem to acknowledge that only one team gets to win. Right. Like, only one team gets to win. So what happens to everybody else? Yeah. There's a heartbreak somewhere along the way. And I actually, each fall, I have to give a speech in front of the football team, just kind of like talking about, like, oh, this is my position, this is what we do. It could be as simple as, hello, my name is Albert Tong, I'm the director of creative, you know, if you guys need anything, blah, blah. I always, like, give a little bit more. And, like, what I've said to them in the past is, like, I'm not a sports filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker doing sports. And it's the stories here, win or loss. Like, you know, I'm with you at 5 a.m. for the lifts. I'm with you, you know, in the dining hall. Like, I'm here to tell your stories, win or loss. I'm not going to just be there during the good times when you're getting drafted. Like, I'll be there the other times too. And I think that's important for these kids to be like, okay, got it. So you're not just like a camera paparazzi. Like, you're trying to tell something deeper and, like, document something. Yeah. That's how you can kind of get the access to more things. And
that's an interesting part of the process too. that I think doesn't really doesn't go in your notebook, but it's all part of you're laying groundwork, you're setting expectations, you're connecting with them before you've even turned a camera on, so that when you do turn a camera on, there's a belief before that even has happened.
Yeah, I don't know if this is completely accurate, but I thought I heard it somewhere once. Greg Whaley, I mean, I look up to him in so many ways, director of Last Chance U, director of so many other things that are really successful right now, America's Sweethearts. He, for the first season of Last Chance U, went to this school, the community college, and I think I heard that the cameramen just spent like 2 to 4 weeks without the cameras on, just figuring out like what's the flow of what you guys do, and sitting with them and doing these things, and like that's awesome. Like
it's scouting in a way.
Scouting. It's just they understand who you are, your presence, which is different. Whenever someone enters that football building that isn't around 365, everyone notices.
Yeah.
It is truly a vibe, a presence that you can feel. And so if you can settle in, let them know like, hey, like this is me.
Yeah. You're an outsider, and they know that.
Right.
And then you're trying to not be an outsider.
Yeah.
And that's part of, just to me, it's interesting. It's all part of the process and what you have to figure out before you've even done your first, turn on the camera kind of thing.
And it's like also showing like, hey, like I'm also not a fanboy. Like I'm not here to just, glitz and glam all this stuff. Like a lot of the times when I'm doing interviews with them, if I feel like I'm just getting very like media answers,
the media trained answer,
like media trained, bro, I'm like, okay, let me ask, like, what do you dream about?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I try to throw them off with a question like, hey, do you ever write poetry?
Yeah,
that's a question you could ask to anybody you ever meet. Hey, have you ever written poetry? Oh, what about? Like, no. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Like, what do you dream about? Like all this.
Next one, yeah.
Try to like find a question that's just like, I don't know, breaks it open a little bit more.
Yeah, it's not the trite kind of, let's talk about the team this year kind of thing.
And so like, when did you fall in love with football? Since you were a kid? Really?
Just like everybody else, Yeah. There are very few people who are like, oh yeah, I strapped on a helmet when I was a junior in high school. Like they do exist, but they're few and far between. Yeah. And when they exist, they already know the story. There's nothing unique about it because it's already been told 1,000 times for that one guy. But it's the like what's underneath those layers there. That's more interesting because that tells me why this guy will run through a brick wall for his teammates. Tells me why this guy straps it up every Saturday, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And I think it has to be noted that like, and I can't take credit for this because it's I documented for the Smithsonian a musical artist named No Boy, and that's Julian Saporiti and Amelia, his now wife. They write music that uses basically like the environment as the percussion or as just instruments. And so he wrote an album about like Japanese internment and the Vietnam War. And he went to the camps, the internment camps around Laredo, Texas, and all those places. And he used the chain link fences and the old oil drums to like make the percussion for the album. And he said something that sticks with me as a storyteller in like everything I do. And he's like, I'm just a musician trying to Trojan horse history lessons into my songs and catchy melodies. And so when I'm like, okay, Albert does sports filmmaking now, it's like, yeah, I mean, sure, there's sports stories, and I hope that I can latch on to an audience that maybe wouldn't have watched otherwise because it's sports. But then if I am really like doing a great job, I'm Trojan horsing a human story into it. It's not just about the sports, and it should be barely about the sports. That's just the world that we're living in. But the real story is like the immigration story of your mom from Nigeria, and then her American dream being lived out. Like that's where I try it, like, and that's why when you ask me like, oh, how do you explain it to a 6-year-old? It's like, well, at the least, I'm making someone feel something. 30-second ad, hype video, whatever. Yeah. And at the most, I'm like helping someone understand someone else's life.
Yeah, that's so cool.